They don't rob for money. They kill for loyalty. One order from inside a prison cell can mean death 1,000 miles away. Born from a war they didn't start. Forged in the streets of Los Angeles, and feared across 2 continents. In the heart of Los Angeles during the chaos of the 1980s, a new kind of brotherhood began to take shape. It wasn't built on fame or wealth. It was built on fear, survival, and exile. They called themselves Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13. What started as protection for displaced Salvadoran youth soon grew into one of the most feared transnational gangs in modern history. From California's inner cities to the suburbs of Long Island, from small-town America to Central America's prisons, MS-13 has become a symbol of violence, loyalty, and power. This is their story, a story of how a gang born in Los Angeles would one day influence U.S. policy, law enforcement strategy, and even international diplomacy. This is Gangster Chronicles, and this is the story of how a gang born in Los Angeles would one day influence U.S. policy, law enforcement strategy, and even international diplomacy. Chapter 1: Origins and Formation. The year was 1980. Los Angeles was already a battlefield of street identities, Crips, Bloods, and the 18th Street Gang. But another war raged thousands of miles away, the Salvadoran Civil War. More than 1 million Salvadorans fled their homeland, many landing in the immigrant pockets of Los Angeles, Pico Union, MacArthur Park, and Westlake. These young men and women carried the trauma of war and had no protection. In a city where identity could mean survival, they formed their own. At first, the group wasn't the ruthless machine it would later become. These were kids, metalheads and street fighters trying to survive. They defended each other against local gangs who saw the Salvadorans as outsiders. But by the mid-1980s, defense turned into offense. MS-13 began to grow, structured, armed, and increasingly violent. When a former Salvadoran Special Forces soldier named Ernesto Deras took charge, he brought something new: military discipline, training, and hierarchy. As the 1990s arrived, law enforcement cracked down, but a new U.S. immigration policy deported undocumented criminals back to their home countries. Plane after plane landed in San Salvador, filled with deported gang members from Los Angeles. They brought MS-13 with them. In El Salvador, where institutions were already weak after civil war, MS-13 found fertile ground to grow. Within years, MS-13 and its rival, the 18th Street Gang, were at war across Central America. The violence spilled back into the United States through migration and revenge. Key points. Chapter 1. Born in 1980s, Los Angeles amid refugee trauma and gang violence. Formed by young Salvadorans seeking protection and belonging. Militarized by ex-soldiers who brought war discipline to the streets. U.S. deportation policies exported MS-13 back to Central America. Chapter 2. Expansion and Territory. By the mid-1990s, MS-13 had become a network of cliques, independent cells bound by one identity and one code: loyalty above all. Each clique, known as a clica, ran its own territory and its own rules. MS-13 operated like a franchise of fear, connected through culture, tattoos, and violence. Los Angeles remained its birthplace, areas like Westlake, Pico Union, and the San Fernando Valley. But soon the same name echoed in Virginia, Maryland, New York, and Texas. Wherever Salvadoran or Central American communities settled, MS-13 followed, recruiting, controlling, expanding. Immigrant families sought safety. The gang offered belonging. What started as protection turned into domination. By the early 2000s, MS-13's presence stretched across the country. Law enforcement reported cliques in more than 40 states. The gang's reach also extended across borders. In Central America, deported members rebuilt MS-13 inside El Salvador's overcrowded prisons, turning them into command centers. Orders for killings in Los Angeles could be sent from a prison cell thousands of miles away. In the United States, MS-13 adapted to geography. Drug trade and extortion in California, human trafficking and intimidation on the East Coast. Each clique operated differently, some for money, others for power, but all shared one thing: control through fear. Key points. Chapter 2. MS-13 spread nationwide through migrant communities, operated as decentralized cliques across over 40 U.S. states. El Salvador's prisons became gang command centers. 2004, FBI designation made MS-13 America's first transnational street gang. Chapter 3. Recruitment, Violence, and Revenue. Every gang has a purpose. For MS-13, it's control over members, over neighborhoods, through fear. Recruitment begins early. Teenagers, often from broken homes, are targeted. The gang offers belonging, identity, and protection, but the price is loyalty sealed by violence. Inside MS-13, brutality is currency. It earns status and respect. The more vicious the act, the greater the power. Behind the violence lies the gang's economy. extortion, drugs, weapons, smuggling, anything that fuels power and profit. In many communities, local businesses pay renta or protection money to stay safe. Refusal means punishment. For MS-13, money matters, but dominance matters more. The ability to rule a neighborhood through fear is the true mark of success. By the 2000s, MS-13 began using modern tools to recruit and communicate. Leaders in Central America ordered U.S. cliques to expand. Social media, coded music videos, and private chats became new battlegrounds. Violence once confined to alleys now spread online. Entire neighborhoods feared to speak or cooperate with police. A murder in Maryland might trace back to a cell in El Salvador, hidden behind layers of code words and burner phones. The FBI and Homeland Security adapted, building new intelligence units. But every raid seemed to feed the legend even further. MS-13 wasn't just surviving, it was evolving. Key points. Chapter 3. Recruitment targets isolated, vulnerable teens. Violence is ritualized and used as social currency. Extortion and local drug trade sustain the gang's economy. Digital communication enabled encrypted coordination and expansion. Chapter 4. Law enforcement response. By the late 2000s, MS-13 was no longer a local issue. It was a national threat. In 2004, the FBI formed the MS-13 National Gang Task Force, linking police, ICE, and international partners. Coordinated raids captured hundreds of members, but dismantling a decentralized network proved difficult. Prosecutors turned to RICO laws, treating MS-13 as a criminal enterprise rather than a street gang. Major operations followed. Operation Matador in New York, Operation Community Shield in Texas, and Operation Raging Bull in 2017. Hundreds were arrested across borders in coordinated sweeps, yet each victory was temporary. For MS-13, prison was not punishment, it was promotion. Inside El Salvador's prisons, leaders formed La Ranfla Nacional, a high council controlling operations through smuggled phones. In the U.S., detectives faced silence. Witnesses feared retaliation. Despite record convictions, the gang endured. By the 2020s, law enforcement shifted focus from individuals to infrastructure, tracking money, communication, and recruitment. Community programs targeted at-risk youth. Agents realized that you can't arrest your way out of a culture. MS-13 had survived wars, deportations, and global crackdowns, proving it was built on persistence as much as violence. Key points. Chapter 4. FBI launched national and international task forces in 2004. RICO laws reclassified MS-13 as a criminal enterprise. Major multi-state operations led to mass arrests. Law enforcement shifted toward community prevention and intelligence. Chapter 5. Modern Impact and Community Response. Decades later, the name MS-13 still casts a shadow. For many, it's a symbol of fear. For others, a reminder of what unchecked poverty and migration crises can create. Across dozens of cities, Los Angeles, Houston, Boston, Charlotte, New York, and D.C., MS-13 still exists, smaller but alive. Its activities today center on local control, extortion, intimidation, drugs, but its reputation remains global. In El Salvador, mass arrests forced members underground. Experts warn that fear alone doesn't end a gang, it scatters it. In the U.S., families still bear the scars, but hope has begun to return. Grassroots programs mentor youth, while former gang members tell their stories in schools and prisons. Prevention over punishment is now the focus, offering belonging before gangs do. Recruitment has moved online. Cybercrime units now fight MS-13 in digital spaces. Yet the real battle remains social. Can neighborhoods heal from decades of fear? In Los Angeles, the same streets that birthed MS-13 now host murals, youth leagues, and rehabilitation centers. Each painted wall is an act of defiance. The gang's future may depend not on violence, but on relevance. A gang born from war may finally fade when the world stops feeding the reasons it existed. Key points. Chapter 5. MS-13 still operates across U.S. cities, but with reduced visibility. Community-led prevention programs replace fear with opportunity. Online recruitment and encrypted communication are new threats. Healing and social rebuilding are key to ending gang influence. Conclusion. From the dusty streets of 1980s Los Angeles to the prisons of Central America, the story of MS-13 is more than crime history. It's a mirror. It reflects migration, poverty, and survival. One group of displaced youth searching for belonging grew into a transnational network feared across continents. Governments fought, families broke, communities rebuilt. Violence may silence people, but it never ends the story. Every victim once hoped for peace. The cycle can be broken, not by fear, but by understanding. In classrooms and communities that refuse to surrender, the next chapter is being written. You've been watching Gangster Chronicles, where we uncover the hidden wars shaping America's streets. If this story opened your eyes, subscribe, comment, and share it. Next, we'll expose the deadly rivalry between MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang, a war that turned entire cities into battlegrounds.